hell froze over in WWF buying WCW. We know the whole story. You don't come in 2001, even though Jim Ross makes you a very tame offer of like, do you want to come to TV on Monday? Not for any reason. So then the next year in 2002, you do come in. Do you think, in hindsight, it is good that you waited a year and didn't come in as part of a WCW-type invasion?
We'll never know, right? I think had I come in the year before, number one, to be very honest about it, I wasn't ready to be on television at that point in time. I had decided once, I was done with WCW, I was going to pursue something else. I kind of let myself go physically. I gained a lot of weight. Television doesn't make you look any leaner, by the way. And Jim Ross called me, and the offer was a very tentative offer. He didn't tell me much, and I decided not to take him up on that. But had I been ready physically to be on camera, and had I been ready mentally to be on camera, emotionally, really, I think it could have been really good. But at the same time, I think the way it happened was equally as good because it was such a huge surprise. So we'll never know the answer to that. It's kind of one of those hypothetical situations that we'll never really know the answer to.
So the next year, you get a phone call from Vince McMahon. You agree to come in. Talk to us about that day in New Jersey when you come to Raw as the GM. Take us through the day.
So Vince and I had a conversation over the phone. I very quickly, it was a matter of minutes during that conversation that I determined that it was really a good opportunity for me to take advantage of the offer that was made to me and join the WWE because my career hadn't ended on a high note. WCW was, 95, 96, 97, 98 was extraordinary success. And then it was the opposite. And I took a lot of heat for that. A lot of that, fairly or unfairly, was my fault. And when Vince, and I had made up my mind. I'm done with wrestling. I'm going to pursue something different. I'm going to reinvent myself and do something different. So when Vince called me, I knew quickly that it was a great opportunity for me to kind of resurrect the ending of my story. I could kind of go out on a high note because there was a lot of big talent in WWE that I had never worked with before. And not to sound too arrogant, although I am a cocky motherfucker. No, maybe you say it here, I'm a cocky which is a weird thing to say when you think about it too much. but I knew I was a good performer. I knew that it was a way for me to go out on a very positive note. So I took the gig. Fast forward now. Before I get to the building, when I was talking to Vince, when I agreed to take the job, I said, Vince, we have to keep this quiet. This has to remain a secret because if the word gets out, I'm not going to mention any names. I'm going to save it for a little while. Nah, f it. Hold on, bear with me. So, if some jackass by the name of Dave Meltzer, there you go, f Dave Meltzer on 3. 1, 2, 3, stand up and yell, Dave Meltzer! Oh no, keep it going. All right, thank you for that. By the way, there's a church group sitting in the back here that obviously didn't want to stand up and say Meltzer, but that's okay. But I was serious.
Just very quickly, if you want to purchase any of the Wrestling Observer yearbooks, we do have them on sale at TitanInsiderPress.com, and we The views of Eric Bischoff are not shared with everybody at Inside the Ropes, but we respect them. Even...
Oh, where was I? I knew that it was a great opportunity, but I also knew that the only way, or not the only way, but the way to maximize the opportunity was to keep it a secret. Because wrestling fans love to be surprised. One of the reasons people generally watch wrestling is because it's unpredictable. Things happen that you don't expect are going to happen, and that's part of the enjoyment of it. And I knew that if the word leaked out that I was coming to work for WWE, number one, it would be kind of big news, given the history. And number two, it would take the fun out of it. You know, people would have preconceived opinions about whether it was a good idea for Eric Bischoff to go to work for WWE or a bad idea. And all of that conversation would be taking place weeks before I actually showed up. And I didn't want that to happen, so I not told Vince, because I don't tell Vince too much, but I suggested strongly that we keep it a secret, so much so that I was very honest with Vince when I talked to him on the phone. I said, just so you know, Vince, I got a call yesterday from somebody that works for you that told me you were going to call me. That's how incestuous, in some respects, the wrestling business is. And I said, because it's so hard to keep a secret, don't even tell anybody in WWE. Don't tell your travel department. Don't send me a plane ticket. Because if you send an email to somebody that says, hey, get Eric Bischoff a plane ticket to fly from Phoenix, Arizona to Newark, New Jersey, 10 people are going to see that. And then the word's going to get out. So I said, I'll fly myself in. I'll pay for it myself. Don't book me a hotel. I'll book my own hotel. Tell me where you want me to be, but I'll book it myself. I'll do everything myself, because as soon as somebody inside your company sees my name on an email or a document, then it's out. So we did that. So I flew into, I think I flew into Newark, New Jersey, and got a car, went to the hotel, checked myself in, and I stayed in my hotel. I stayed there all day. Never even left my hotel room. I just ordered room service because I didn't even want to I didn't want a waiter or a waitress or somebody that was cleaning the rooms. I didn't want anybody to see me because the word would possibly leak out. Then Vince sent a limo to come and get me. And I went out into the limo, and the limo drove me into the Continental Airlines arena, and the limo pulled right into the backstage area. And I sat in that limo for 3 hours. They wanted me there at 5 or 6. The show didn't start till 8. But they wanted to make sure I was there. So I literally sat in that limo. Man, did I have to piss. Whoa.
Don't put that in your mind again.
I mean, you know how I am by now, right? And I sat in that limo, and here's the funny part of that story. So I'm sitting in this limo, and the windows are tinted. So from the outside, you couldn't see in. You could try, but you couldn't see in. But I could see out. So for 3 hours, everybody in WWE that was backstage, walking by the limo. I felt like a monkey in the zoo. Good, what do you want me to do? Do a trick? Do a dance? So I sat there for a long time. And then finally, about 20 minutes or so, it's hard for me to remember, but shortly before the show started, Stephanie McMahon, who I had talked to on the phone, once Vince and I agreed that I was coming in, Stephanie knew, and because she had some things she wanted to talk about. She wanted me to dye my hair black. My hair was gray, right? I finally quit dyeing my hair because it was like, I put shoe polish on it was like painting my hair once a month because my hair grew really fast and it was really heavy. And because my hair was so white, even back then, like as soon as it started growing out, it would kind of part down the middle because it was long and heavy. and then I had like a silver streak that would go right down the middle of my head. I looked like Pepe Le Pew, the cartoon skunk, and I hated it. So it was like, I don't have to dye my hair anymore. And then I talked to Stephanie, and she says, so, Eric, have you thought about dyeing your hair back? Because he wanted me to look like I did back in WCW. I was like, for the amount of money you're paying me, I'll head to toe. If you want me to paint my hair, I don't give a I'll do it. So I'd had a couple conversations with Stephanie, but Stephanie, right before I went out, or maybe half hour, 20 minutes, whatever it was, Stephanie comes back to the limo. She opens it up. She comes back there with the security. Security moved everybody away that was peeking in the window, seeing if they could see who the monkey was. And Stephanie gets in the limo, and she said, so, Eric, are you nervous? Nah. No, I'm excited. I'm glad to be here, but I'm not nervous. And I'm thinking, I've done this a lot. You know, it's not the first time I've been on television. There's no reason to be nervous. I knew what I was there to do. I was comfortable that I had my dialogue in my head. I knew the crowd was going to react. I could anticipate everything. And like I said, I've done it before. But Stephanie was like, you're not nervous? No, I'm good, Steph. Real good. Huh. She said, okay. She got out and she left. About 5 minutes later, Vince comes into the limo. And I had not talked to Vince. I mean, I talked to him on the phone, but I hadn't talked to him in person. We hadn't laid eyes on each other since 1990 at that point. And Vince gets in the limo. Hey, pal. How you feeling, pal? I was like, I feel good, Vince. It's all good. Are you nervous? Nope. Not nervous. I'm excited, but I'm not nervous. Goddamn, pal. Got out, he left, and then the show started like 5 minutes after that. And I walked out on stage, and we had talked about, you know, what I was going to do. And we walked out on stage, and we had that moment where we hugged and shook hands and raised each other's arms up, and it was an awesome moment, really.
When you first got there, you've spoke to Vince, you've agreed to come in. Did you get a sense from Stephanie, Linda, Shane, that they all were happy to have you there? Was there any friction from past things you might have said?
That's kind of an amazing part of the whole story, because I anticipated that there would be hard feelings. I probably would have had hard feelings had I been on the other side of that equation. I might not have been so easy to just look past what was then recent history, because I almost put WWE out of business. I came to work there in 2002 or whatever year it was, and I made some pretty good friends who were senior executives in the company. And once we developed a trusting kind of relationship, they were honest. They said, Eric, you have no idea. We were laying people off. It got so bad that in the office building that WWE was in, up until very recently, it was like 5 stories, 6 stories. It was a very big office building. They had water coolers on all the floors throughout the entire office building. And they couldn't afford to service the water coolers anymore. They literally had to take the water coolers out of the building because they couldn't afford to pay for it. That's how bad it got. But I went there anticipating and prepared for resentment. And when I got there, I was almost shocked at how welcomed I was made to feel. Not only by Vince, who, by the way, when Vince called me, he said something to me. And the guy who called me the day before that said, hey, just so you know, Vince McMahon's going to call you and offer you a job, was Kevin Nash. Because Kevin Nash and I were good friends. Kevin was working there at the time. Kevin knew some people. He got the word. Being a good brother, as they say in the wrestling business, he called me to give me a heads up, so I had time to think about it before I got the call. And Vince said to me, and I'm paraphrasing this to a degree, but pretty close word for word, before he even offered me a job, he said, Eric, I would hope to think that if things would have turned out differently and WCW would have won the Monday Night War, that you would at least consider giving me an opportunity to come and work for you. I went, how can I say no to that? You know, it was genuine. It wasn't, hey pal, you know, things would have been different. You know, it wasn't that. It was real and it was genuine. It was authentic, and it took my defensiveness down. If there was any defensiveness in me at all, if there was any tendency for me to be, I just dropped my hands and lent into it. But when I got to that building that night, I had already kind of figured out that Vince and I were going to be good. That's why I took the job. But I didn't know Linda McMahon, his wife. She was still very much involved in the business. She was the president of the company at that time. I didn't know Stephanie McMahon other than what I knew of her. I didn't know Shane McMahon other than I knew of him. And I also knew that Shane and Stephanie and Linda, I don't know how she put up with Vince, but whatever. He was fucking everything that had a heartbeat at that time.
Later on, we found out that he wanted to do an incest angle with Stephanie where he would be the dad, and then she said no, and then he wants it to be Shane. At what point do you go, this guy is a f***ing freak? Like, what's the tipping point?
I just didn't give it any thought. It's just, I mean, Vince did a lot of crazy shit. You know, the Kiss My Ass Club, when he made all the talent, you know, he pulled his pants down and made his talent kiss his ass.
Did they ever try and make you do that?
Honestly, yes. Yeah, and this is one question that we haven't had yet on this tour. By the way, this is going to be my last live tour with shows like this. No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Thank you. And it's a good thing because I just, before I came here, I let Kenny know before I even left. I said, this is going to be the last one. Because I'm at a point in my life where I want to do some other stuff. You know, if I have a week or 10 days or 2 weeks to go do something, you know, I want to spend time with my grandson, our grandson, Waylon. Hey, Wayjay. But I also wanted this part of my career to end on a very high note. That's what you guys are doing. So thank you very much. Where was I? I don't even remember.
If you thought that attempt to get out of telling us about when they tried to get you to join the Vince McMahon Kiss My Ass, it did not work. We still want to hear it.
Good catch, brother. Good catch. I thought I was better than that. I'll get everybody emotional and he'll forget what we were talking about. God damn it, pal. No, I was, while I was working in WWE, I also had, with my business partner, Jason Hervey, we had our own independent television production company, and we were doing very, very well at the time. We were very busy. And as a result, I kept an apartment in Los Angeles, even though my wife and I lived in Scottsdale. And I had spent 3 or 4 days a week in Los Angeles on average, and I'd come home for 3 or 4 days a week, or Lori would come out to me and stay with me for a couple days or whatever. We made it work. But I was in Los Angeles on a Saturday afternoon, and this was the first time WWE ever sent me my script early. Before, I wouldn't get it until I showed up at the building. But on this particular day, they emailed me a script. I was going to leave LA on Sunday so that I could be there Sunday night, so I could do TV Monday night. So they sent me the script Saturday afternoon, and I'm looking at it, and in the script, there's a scene where Vince McMahon is making me kiss his ass. I said, the Eric Bischoff character wouldn't do that. Actually, the Eric Bischoff character would make you think he's going to kiss your ass, and as soon as you bent over and dropped your drawers, he'd kick you in the balls. So, but I just, in the honest, not the funny show answer, is in my mind, I thought, if I do that, and I would have done it, everybody else did it, made Jim Ross do it, made everybody do it. It's not that I had an issue doing it. It's like, well, where does this character go? You might as well shoot him. Once we do that, there's nothing left for us to do together. So it was the only time while I was in WWE. Now, don't get me wrong, every once in a while I'd get a scene, and Bruce Pritchard was my guy. He was my producer, and we were very good friends. And I would say, Bruce, I think if I do this a little differently and I do this instead of that, I think it'll be a little better. And Bruce would always go, cool, let's try it. And if it works, great. And if not, we'll do it the other way. That's the way it goes. But I looked at this script and I went, not feeling it. It's not because it was kissing his ass. It was more about the timing of it, because it was very early. Maybe it had only been there a year or so. And I thought, well, then there's nothing left to do. That is the equivalent. That scene was the equivalent of Vince McMahon and I having a wrestling match at WrestleMania. So I called Bruce first, and I said, Bruce, not really feeling this. Don't think it's the right time to do something like this. It's just my 2 cents. If you want me to do it, I'm going to do it. That's the deal. But it doesn't feel right to me. He said, okay, Eric, I'll pass it on. I got to TV Monday fully expecting that I'm going to be kissing Vince McMahon's ass on national television, and it all got changed. Wasn't in the script. So it almost happened.
Did Vince ever talk to you about it?
Nope. And I found out later on it was Michael Hayes' idea, because Michael Hayes resented me for firing him in WCW, so I think it was his idea. But seriously, and Michael and I are very good friends now, but I found out much later that it was Michael Hayes' idea. But I didn't say I won't do it, I just said I don't think it's the best idea, especially right now. And when I got to TV, it was gone. Like it never happened, and nobody ever breathed a word of it again.